The alien council sat smugly in their command chambers, their victory over humanity practically cemented in their minds. One of the generals, clad in gleaming armor, looked over the holographic map of Earth with satisfaction. The planet had been subdued, the resistance quashed, or so they believed. Their fleets had swept across the human colonies with ease, their advanced weaponry rendering Earth's defenses laughable in comparison. Humans, with their primitive tactics, never stood a chance, one of the generals said with a sneer, adjusting his control panel to display images of conquered human cities. Towering alien war machines stood where skyscrapers once did, smoke rising from what was left of Earth's resistance. A species from such a backwater planet, what did they expect? Their technology is barely out of infancy, compared to our glorious empire. The council nodded in agreement. Their superior strategy, their overwhelming numbers, their invincible fleets, all these things led to humanity's inevitable fall. Every attempt Earth made to retaliate was met with failure. Alien soldiers boasted about how easily they dispatched human forces, treating the whole invasion like a formality, an exercise in demonstrating their superiority. They didn't even see us coming, another general mused, leaning back in his chair. We struck before they even understood the threat. Their armies were crushed, their defenses obliterated, and now the spoils of this world are ours. A ripple of pride ran through the room. The arrogance was palpable, their belief in their own infallibility unshakable. They had faced countless species across the stars, each one more primitive than the last. Earth, to them, was no different, just another world to add to their ever-expanding empire. The humans had fought back, of course, but the council dismissed their resistance as a futile struggle, nothing more than the death throes of a weak species. They sent their best at us, one of the commanders continued. Pathetic attempts, all of them. Their fighter jets were like insects against our ships. Their ground forces crumbled the moment we landed. I almost pity them. The others chuckled. To them, Earth was conquered. The planet lay beneath their feet, and the humans, disorganized and defeated, had nowhere to run. They had secured key military points, disrupted communication lines, and wiped out what remained of Earth's organized resistance. There were whispers of isolated human holdouts, but nothing of significance. In their minds, Earth's last hope had been extinguished. Perhaps we were too harsh, one of the council members said mockingly. Maybe we should have left more of them alive. After all, there's little sport in destroying a species so helpless. Yet, even amid their laughter, small disturbances had begun to filter through their ranks. Reports of strange disappearances, of patrols failing to return, of areas where communication went dead. The council, engrossed in their victory celebrations, brushed these incidents aside. Earth was a large planet, of course, there would be minor setbacks. It was nothing they couldn't handle. We've already won, one commander said dismissively. These humans are just too stubborn to admit it. But beneath their confident facade, something stirred. Somewhere, deep in the recesses of the human forces, a plan had been brewing. Unknown to the aliens, humanity was far from beaten. Earth had one final card to play, a secret so powerful that it would turn the tide in an instant. But for now, the council remained blissfully unaware, their arrogance blinding them to the danger that lurked in the shadows. The humans, after all, had never been the predictable, easily subdued species they imagined. In their victory, the aliens had forgotten one crucial detail: humanity had learned how to adapt. And as they sat in their gilded command chambers, laughing at their perceived triumph, they failed to notice the storm gathering just beyond their reach, waiting for the right moment to strike. As the alien council continued to revel in their victory, whispers of something strange began to surface. It started as a trickle, unconfirmed reports of isolated incidents. An alien patrol would go silent, never to be heard from again. Security outposts, which had once monitored human movements with ease, suddenly fell into disarray. A creeping unease began to spread among the lower ranks, though the commanders were quick to dismiss it. Humans are resourceful, one of the alien tacticians noted offhandedly during a briefing. They have a knack for adapting when their backs are against the wall. We've seen this before in other species, though none have ever turned it into a lasting advantage. But Earth? Something's different about this place. The idea of humans having a secret weapon was laughable to most. After all, what could a species from such a primitive planet truly offer in the face of superior alien technology? Yet, in the back of their minds, there was an unspoken recognition of human unpredictability. Throughout history, Earth's wars had shown a pattern of creativity under pressure, where humanity had thrived when others might crumble. This thought lingered but was brushed aside as paranoia. Then, the disappearances increased. Alien outposts, once secure and fortified, began losing contact at a troubling rate. The reports coming in from the field were vague, filled with confusion. Some mentioned sounds in the night, barely perceptible movements at the edge of their vision. Others described finding the remains of their comrades, torn apart by something that defied explanation. The weapons used were not the sophisticated plasma rifles or energy swords of the aliens. No, these wounds were savage, primal. But still, the commanders dismissed the growing body of evidence. "It's just human guerrilla tactics," they said. "They're desperate, clutching at straws." And yet, something gnawed at the edges of their certainty. The attacks were becoming too coordinated, too precise. When the first images arrived, blurry but unmistakable, the truth became harder to deny. Shadows moving quickly, too fast for the surveillance drones to track. Closer analysis revealed something unexpected. These weren't human soldiers. These were creatures. And not just any creatures. Lions. The aliens were bewildered. They had studied Earth's biology before the invasion, but these animals were different. They weren't acting like wild beasts but as though they were part of a calculated, methodical assault. The way they moved, how they avoided detection until the last moment, and the brutal efficiency with which they dispatched their targets. It was as if they had been trained for this. The first wave of disbelief soon gave way to alarm as more reports came in. The lions weren't isolated predators on a rampage. They were striking in unison, picking off high-ranking officials, decimating supply lines, and crippling the alien infrastructure. What was once dismissed as an odd anomaly was now undeniably a coordinated attack. The realization hit the alien commanders like a tidal wave. The humans hadn't been defeated. They had been biding their time, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash their hidden weapon. Earth's apex predators, strategically trained or possibly even genetically enhanced, were now Earth's frontline defense. Silent, lethal, and devastating. At first, the aliens tried to mount a defense, but they quickly found their advanced technology useless against this new threat. The lions moved too fast for energy weapons to lock on, and physical barriers were no match for their sheer strength. Alien soldiers, who had once laughed at Earth's primitive nature, now found themselves on the run, hunted in the very land they thought they had conquered. Panic began to spread. Commanders scrambled to understand the scope of the threat, but the lions were everywhere, and their attacks were becoming more frequent. Each strike was more precise than the last, targeting critical command centers, disabling communication hubs, and crippling the alien war machine from the inside. The Alien Council, once so confident in their victory, found themselves facing a nightmare they had never anticipated. It wasn't just the lions. It was the realization that they had made a grave miscalculation. They had underestimated Earth, not just for its human inhabitants but for its untamed, unpredictable natural world. And now, that world had turned against them with a vengeance. Chaos erupted within the alien ranks as the lions made their presence known. These were no ordinary predators. Each movement was calculated, each strike deadly. Alien outposts, once teeming with soldiers and advanced technology, now found themselves under siege by the unexpected force of nature. The lions moved like shadows, fast and silent, striking with a precision that left little room for defense. Outposts that had stood as symbols of alien dominance were torn apart in minutes. Massive walls, reinforced by alien tech, crumbled under the sheer power of these creatures. Soldiers stationed at the perimeters barely had time to react before the lions were upon them, a blur of fangs and claws tearing through their defenses. In close quarters, the alien troops were helpless. Their weapons, designed for long-range combat and precision strikes, were slow to react to the lions' speed. By the time they could fire, the lions had already vanished back into the shadows, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. Panic spread quickly. Alien soldiers, trained in advanced warfare, had never encountered a threat like this. They were used to calculated battles fought with strategy and superior technology. But no amount of planning had prepared them for a confrontation with raw, primal power. The lions moved without hesitation, targeting key areas with an intelligence that felt more like a coordinated assault than random attacks. Outposts that had once been secure now became scenes of carnage, as bodies of alien soldiers lay scattered in their wake. The reports coming in were frantic, each one more alarming than the last. Alien soldiers, once confident in their technological superiority, were now terrified. They shot wildly into the dark, firing at nothing but shadows. The fear was palpable. They weren't facing an enemy they could predict or control. This was something far worse. Each roar that echoed through their lines sent a shudder of panic, each flash of movement triggering a desperate, futile attempt to fight back. It wasn't just the physical toll that the lions were exacting, it was psychological. The aliens, who had relied so heavily on their technology and tactics, were being hunted by creatures they couldn't even fully understand. The sound of lions approaching became a signal of doom. Soldiers would freeze at the sound of distant growls, paralyzed by the certainty that they were next. The sheer unpredictability of the attacks left them vulnerable. They couldn't anticipate where the lions would strike next, and each moment was filled with the tension of not knowing if they would survive the next hour. The alien commanders, desperate to regain control, attempted to reorganize their forces, but it was too late. The ranks had already fallen into chaos. Orders were lost in the panic, with communication lines severed by the lions' earlier strikes. In the midst of this, the leaders tried to project authority, demanding their troops hold their ground, but it was no use. The fear had taken root, spreading like wildfire through the ranks. No amount of shouting or threats could stop it. Soldiers began abandoning their posts, fleeing in terror at the sight of a shadow or the sound of a distant roar. For the first time, the alien commanders realized they were facing something far more dangerous than they had ever anticipated. This wasn't just about military superiority or advanced technology. Humanity had weaponized the very essence of Earth, turning its most dangerous creatures into a strategic advantage. The lions were not just animals, they were Earth's answer to the invasion, embodying the resilience and unpredictability of the humans themselves. The realization hit hard. The alien forces, accustomed to domination and control, were now at the mercy of a force they couldn't even comprehend. Each attack from the lions further broke down the alien hierarchy. Soldiers refused to return to their posts, terrified of becoming the next victim. The once mighty alien war machine, which had seemed so invincible, was crumbling under the pressure. Every roar from the lions echoed not just in the physical space of the battlefield, but in the minds of the alien soldiers. It signaled the collapse of their perceived superiority, and the unraveling of their tightly controlled strategy. The battle had shifted. No longer was it about who had the better weapons or the larger fleet. Now, it was about survival in the most primal sense. The lions were doing more than tearing through the alien ranks. They were dismantling the very fabric of their invasion. And in doing so, they exposed the weakness the aliens had tried so hard to hide. They were unprepared for a species that fought not just with its mind, but with the wild, untamed spirit of its home planet. The alien commanders, once so confident, now faced the stark reality that they had underestimated humanity not just in technology, but in their very essence. They had failed to grasp the unpredictable, dangerous nature of Earth and its inhabitants. And as their forces continued to fall, they began to realize that their victory was slipping away, one lion's strike at a time. The devastation caused by the lions had turned the tide in favor of humanity. What had once seemed like a lost cause was now shifting rapidly, as humans began to seize control of the situation. The alien forces, once so organized and dominant, were in complete disarray, their ranks shattered by the primal force unleashed upon them. As the lions continued their assault, tearing through alien outposts and supply lines, humanity moved swiftly to capitalize on the chaos. Human forces, which had been lying low, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, now emerged from the shadows. They had been monitoring the situation closely, knowing that the Lions' attacks would weaken the alien infrastructure. With precise coordination, they began targeting key alien installations, striking at their weakest points. The Lions had already done most of the damage, crippling communication networks and supply chains, and now the human forces delivered the final blows. Human soldiers, equipped with guerrilla tactics and intimate knowledge of the terrain, began launching a series of coordinated strikes. They hit alien positions with calculated precision, avoiding direct confrontation when necessary but striking hard where the aliens were most vulnerable. The once powerful alien armies, disoriented by the relentless Lion attacks, found themselves unable to mount a coherent defense. They had never anticipated this level of coordination between humans and Earth's wildlife, and the shock of it was paralyzing. The Lions had become more than just a weapon, they were now a symbol of Earth's refusal to submit. To the aliens, they were an unpredictable force that defied all logic, embodying a power they hadn't considered. To the humans, they represented the untamed spirit of the planet they were defending. As the Lions continued to strike with lethal precision, they seemed to carry with them the very essence of Earth's defiance. They were more than predators, they were a living reminder that humanity and its planet would not be easily conquered. Each attack by the Lions was a message to the alien invaders: Earth would not bow to superior technology or overwhelming numbers. The Lions were nature's answer to the invasion, a force that no amount of alien planning could have foreseen. The symbolism wasn't lost on either side. For the aliens, the sight of Lions decimating their forces was both terrifying and humiliating. For the humans, it was a rallying point, a clear sign that their planet had the power to fight back in ways the aliens couldn't comprehend. As the alien leadership scrambled to regain control, desperation began to set in. Commanders who had once boasted of their inevitable victory were now reduced to frantically issuing orders, trying in vain to restore order to their shattered ranks. The chaos that had once been confined to the battlefield now extended to the highest levels of their command structure. Conflicting reports and misinformation spread like wildfire, with some commanders still refusing to believe that their forces were being decimated by Earth's wildlife. In their desperation, the aliens attempted to retreat, but the Lions had already cut off key escape routes. Alien leaders, once so confident in their technological superiority, found themselves trapped, their options dwindling by the minute. The carefully constructed invasion plan had unraveled, leaving them vulnerable and exposed. Every failed attempt to regain control only further underscored the magnitude of their miscalculation. The revelation hit the aliens with brutal clarity. Humanity had planned this from the very beginning. The Lions hadn't been a last-minute gambit, they had been part of Earth's defense strategy all along. The humans had known that their technological defenses might fall short against the alien forces, but they had something the aliens could never anticipate. The Lions had been trained, honed, and prepared for this moment, kept in reserve until the aliens believed they had already won. It wasn't just a battle of weapons or technology, it was a battle of wit and survival. Humanity had waited for the perfect moment to unleash the Lions, and when the time came, they struck with devastating effectiveness. The aliens, who had thought themselves invincible, now realized they had walked into a carefully laid trap. Humanity's ability to think outside the box, to use the very nature of their planet as a weapon, left the aliens stunned and unable to recover. In the end, the Lions weren't just the downfall of the alien forces, they were the embodiment of humanity's refusal to be dominated. The invaders had underestimated not just Earth's people, but the planet itself. And as the final alien outposts fell and the remnants of their forces were driven off, it became clear that Earth had won not just with strength, but with cunning and resilience. The humans had turned the tables, and their victory was as much psychological as it was physical. The alien forces, once so proud and sure of their domination, now found themselves in the midst of a final, desperate battle. What had started as a swift and calculated invasion had devolved into chaos, with their once mighty war machine crumbling under the relentless assault of Earth's forces and the Lions that had become the symbols of humanity's defiance. Their attempts to regroup and launch a counteroffensive were futile. Each strike they planned, each defensive line they tried to hold, was quickly dismantled by the combined force of human ingenuity and the raw power of Earth's apex predators. The lions moved through the battlefield with brutal efficiency, every attack a well-coordinated blow against the remaining alien troops. Meanwhile, human forces capitalized on the disruption caused by the lions, launching their final wave of attacks with the precision and determination that had always defined them. The aliens, once so confident in their advanced weaponry and tactical superiority, were now being overwhelmed from all sides. For every line they tried to hold, the lions broke through, and for every retreat they planned, human forces were already a step ahead. There was no place left to hide, no more reinforcements to call upon. The alien commanders, faced with the reality of their impending defeat, could see the writing on the wall. Their arrogance had led them to underestimate Earth, and now they were paying the price. The final moments of the battle were a spectacle of desperation, with alien forces scattered and broken, their once organized ranks now in complete disarray. As the last of their defenses fell, the remaining alien leaders gathered in a final attempt to negotiate, but their confidence had long since vanished. What they faced was no longer a planet they could conquer, but a force they could not comprehend. The lions, still prowling the periphery of their camps, were a constant reminder of the natural power they had foolishly dismissed. It wasn't just the human forces that had overwhelmed them, it was the very planet they had sought to dominate. And so, with no other options left, the alien forces surrendered. Their leaders, who had once stood tall with arrogance and certainty, now lowered their heads in defeat. The realization was crushing: they had underestimated both the humans and the untamed spirit of Earth. They had come to conquer, but instead, they had been conquered by a force they had never anticipated. The lions, a seemingly primitive part of Earth, had become their downfall, and the humans had outsmarted them at every turn. Humanity, though battered and scarred by the invasion, emerged victorious. The world they defended, and the creatures they shared it with, had proven to be more powerful than any alien force could have imagined. The aftermath was one of both celebration and reflection. Humans and lions alike stood as symbols of Earth's resilience, a testament to the unexpected strength that had led to their triumph. For the first time, humanity had faced an enemy far more advanced, and yet they had found a way to not just survive, but win decisively. As the dust settled, it became clear that this victory wasn't just about defeating an invader, it was about the lesson learned by those who had dared to challenge Earth. The arrogance of believing that technology alone could subdue an entire species, or a planet, had been the invaders' downfall. They had misunderstood the very nature of humanity, mistaking their restraint for weakness and their planet's wildlife for insignificance. The moral was clear: underestimating humanity was the gravest mistake an alien force could make. The lions, though animals, had embodied a deeper truth. Earth was not a place to be easily conquered, and its inhabitants, whether human or beast, had a resilience and adaptability that no invader could have anticipated. Humanity's victory, won through cunning, courage, and a deep connection to their world, was a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they would always find a way to prevail.